Hello, Rovers fans. It's our favourite day of the week. It is match day, and no sooner, again, as we've digested Saturday's game, we are on to the next one at home to Reading for another pre-match stream live with four of us from Rovers Chat. I am joined again by Alex Lomax. How are you, Alex?
I'm feeling good, Ryan. I'm a bit nervous about tonight, but I think that probably goes with playing top of the league. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it after Saturday.
Excellent. We've got Howard Abbott, who's come back to join us again. How are you, Howard?
Yeah, not too bad. Hopefully today I'll have a bit more of a positive game to talk about than the one last week.
Indeed. And we've got Joe Harvey, of course. How are you doing, Joe?
Yes, not bad. Looking forward to the game.
Excellent. Well, before we dissect and digest everything that we need to pre-match, just a reminder to everyone that we are sponsored by 6yardsout.com.
The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.
Thanks once again to the guys at 6yardsout.com. I am pleased to say I have checked the website out and I have today's home shirt mug. It's very nice. It's got a nice cup of tea in there at the moment. So please do give the website a good check out there. Rovers fans, of course, please hit us with your comments throughout this video. We will pick up your comments as we go. And if you are not following us on Twitter, we are nearly at 5,000 followers now. So Rovers_chat on Twitter, if you could give us a follow. And please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and keep up to date with all things Rovers Chat and all of the video content that we have got coming this season. So the team news will land in about 10 minutes time. I'm going to do like I did on Saturday and wait for it to scroll across the bottom. It can be like Christmas Day again. So I'm not going to ask anyone to tell me. I'm just going to wait for it to appear. But before then, we have had another go at our suggested sides. A bit of division in camp today, actually. So I'm going to come to you first, Howard, for your preferred 11 today. You've gone for pretty much the same side. One thing I will say is we've all gone for Ainsley Pears on the basis that we think he's not going to play. But I just want you to pick out Ryan Nyambe there. Why have you gone for Nyambe?
Yeah, so I've put Nyambe in instead of Joe Rankin-Costello for this game, which I must say has got nothing to do with Joe Rankin-Costello. Joe Rankin-Costello's been fantastic ever since he's come into this side. Which I believe his first game was Sheffield Wednesday. I'd say since then I don't think he's put a foot wrong. But for me, we're not idiots. We know that Reading are obviously a good team. And I worry on their left-hand side with Olise, the 18-year-old winger that they have. I worry that Joe Rankin-Costello could be a bit too... Not that Nyambe isn't forward-thinking himself, but maybe a bit too forward-thinking so that he might not have the defensive cover. And I think a mistake that we made in other games is the fact that we've pushed our full-backs too far forward. And I'd have more faith, personally, in Ryan Nyambe keeping the shape better, if you know what I mean, to make sure that the Reading winger can't get him behind, because their front four is lethal, isn't it? I mean, you've seen it this season with Jowie, Jaria, Olise, and Mimeti, or however you pronounce his name, I'm not too sure. So it's nothing against Joe Rankin-Costello, as I said. I just think for a game like this, I would probably trust Nyambe a little bit more to put in a more solid defensive display than I would Rankin-Costello.
Sure. And Alex, you've gone for the same side as Howard, I believe. Is that a view that you share with Nyambe?
100%. I would echo everything that Howard's just said on that. I think I've just seen a comment pop up saying that JRC has had the easier games. I would maybe tend to agree with that, actually. When you look at the games that he has played in, and you look at the sides and where they are on the table, I suppose you can come to that conclusion. I've said this before, I would always prefer Nyambe as an option at right back if what you're prioritising is the defensive side of the game. I think, as we've seen this season, against the so-called smaller clubs that we should be beating, Mowbray's preferred JRC in there just for that extra kind of assist potential, really. But this is just my personal preference, really. I would always rather have Nyambe in there as a bit of a balance to the side. But I think it would be harsh on JRC just to say, he's maybe he doesn't deserve to be in there. It's an extremely tight call. I have to emphasize that. But I think when you play in a team that's only conceded 1 goal, I think it's imperative that we don't concede the first goal and that we don't give away many chances at our end of the pitch, because I think it's widely known that Reading have been pretty lethal going forward and that they've made the most of all of the chances really that they've been creating. So I think we really need to kind of keep the chances at our end to a minimum, to be honest.
Sure. And Joe, you and I are the division in camp. We've both gone for JRC at right back. We've all gone for the same side, actually, apart from pairs, of course, but we went for JRC at right back. Talk us through why you'd prefer JRC.
Well, I think it's quite easy, as Numi 1981 has pointed out. I think it's quite easy to worry about other teams too easily in this league. It's a toss-up really about playing the way we want to play and playing to the team that we're playing. So yeah, I think that's a good comment really, and probably one that I agree with. It says if you think you're going to do things in the Championship, then you have to let them worry about you, and I agree with that. The data side of things, which obviously everybody knows I try and focus on, suggests today, or tonight should I say, that we're probably going to have more of the ball. And I think when we got more of the ball, undeniably, Rankin Costello's a better option. I think it's easy to say that he's played in the easy games. And it's also quite easy to say, well, actually, he's made 3 starts and we've won all 3 games, 4-0, 4-0 and 5-0. So maybe he's the reason we won those games 4-0 and 5-0. Who knows? But as I say, the flip side of that is, well, he's only played against the easier teams. Well, give him a start against a tougher team then, so he can prove you wrong, I think. He provides more going forward. So we've talked a little bit about Reading and the way they defend in the box. Balls into the box today are going to be crucial. Delivery's got to be right. And for me, Douglas and Rankin Costello did everything right at the weekend and have got to continue. Big fan of Nyambe, but for now, JRC's got to start.
Yeah. And I think just to offer my 2 pence worth, firstly, a side that wins 4-0 away from home, I want to be sticking with that same side, notwithstanding all the comments between JRC and Nyambe. And it's a bit like I think my criticism of Mowbray and maybe what we've done, for the last couple of years in the Championship. As I say, I want to impose ourselves on sides. I want them to worry about us. So that's why I'm going for the JRC element. But that said, if it is Nyambe, I'm not going to complain. And if he does want to shore it up at the back a little bit, I can absolutely see that. One area that we are all in agreement on is the front 3. And a little bit about Ben Brereton on Saturday. I mean, absolutely sensational. Alex, was that ever in doubt that front 3 was going to start in that way or whatever?
Providing everybody's fit, then no. I think this is probably the most free scoring we've been, well, really since I've been watching Rovers, to be honest. I've not been watching Rovers that long, and that probably gives you an indication of how bad we've been since I've been watching them. But the way we've been freely scoring, I think, in the games where Rovers have been on top in the game, I don't think we have any cause to change that, to be honest. I think there's a good blend in there. I think there's a bit of a mixture of pace, creativity, craft, really everything you want, to be honest. And injuries permitting, I would keep with that as long as they're doing the business on the pitch. I think we've talked about how we might have struggled to break teams down at home so far this season and maybe last season. So I think it's probably only right that we go with the front 3 that served us so well on Saturday and looked quite potent. Absolutely.
And just before the team news lands, Howard, we all went for Tom Tribal again. How impressed were you with Tribal on Saturday?
Yeah, I was very impressed, to be fair. It was everything I kind of expected him to be. He was sort of the engine in midfield. He'd pick up the ball. He'd find his man pretty well. He got about the pitch pretty well. I had a little bit of worry about him because obviously I believe... he played 6 games in 2020 before we signed him, all in the Premier League, granted, but I suppose it doesn't really matter. Norwich were terrible anyway. But I had worries of similar with Iola that he might not be 100% up to it straight away. But from what I've seen, I think I've been very impressed. He's kind of just not as I don't say he's slotted in as well as Elliott, but he's kind of slotted in similar, where he's kind of not looked out of place, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And I can see my Christmases have all come at once, and the team news is now scrolling along the bottom. So, Joe, I'm going to come to you first. Ainsley Pears does start in goal. We've commented in, the Rovers Chat group chat last season when it's Lutweiler coming in for Walton. Maybe we're a bit more anxious. Are you quite happy, that we've got Pears as an understudy, and we've got a goalkeeper there that does have quite a lot of championship experiences under his belt?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know an exact figure on how many games he played last year for Middlesbrough, but probably at the stage that David Raya was at in 2018-19 in terms of experience in this division, similar age. So, we remember Raya from 2018-19, and I think if we keep in mind that that's what you've got to expect, I think we've probably got to expect a goalkeeper that's competent, a goalkeeper that can save, perhaps a goalkeeper that has a mistake in him, maybe, but that's the way it is with younger goalkeepers, and with Sturgiakis as well, and Hilton and Fisher, who's left, and Eastham, and all the goalkeepers at the club. When they're young and when they're coming through, it's great, and you feel like you've got a department, but you've got to accept that mistakes might come. I think the one thing going for Pears tonight is that he's not going to have to cope with too much pressure continuously. Reading aren't a side that will have 70% possession, be pumping the balls into the box all game. They will break once or twice and potentially score, but they're not going to be situations where he's under ridiculous pressure. It's going to be key to see how he does at set pieces. Reading have got some big central defenders. He's going to need to be commanding. I think Kaminski's best trait is his command of that box and his comfort on the ball. So we'll see how he does, but I'm certainly excited by the lineup, just to look at it in general. I think one player out from what I would have gone with. Perhaps Johnson might have a knock, or at his age, it might be a case of legs with such a tight turnaround, and whether he comes on maybe later on in the game, as Daniel Wood suggests. So, yeah, interesting side. Evans for Johnson's kind of like for like, really. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes.
And Alex, I'm going to come to you on that change. We've got a few comments within the comments back block here. Ishmael Luna, Johnson dropped. What's your opinion? Andy Watson, thoughts on Evans instead of Johnson? And then perhaps some more negative comments about Corey Evans starting in the side. Alex, do you think it's a case of Bradley Johnson expecting 3 games in a week from him is what's forced this change?
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair thing to say. I think the thing that concerns me the most about that is maybe where Evans will be playing today. I think in the previous 2 home games, Mowbray's got Evans and Johnson the wrong way around, where he had Johnson almost further back and Evans further forward, and I don't think that works. I don't think that works if you're looking to break teams down at home who sit back, banks of 4 and make it really difficult for you. So that's my concern looking at that team, is whether Tribal is the further forward, which I don't suspect he is, or whether Evans is. And looking at that midfield 3, I would suspect that maybe Evans is on that one, which I think looking at every other pick really in that 11, I don't think you can maybe contest it. I don't think you can argue against it, but I think Evans maybe in that number 8 position does concern me a bit about our creativity, tonight, which against a team that's only conceded 1 goal, I think is really going to be the crucial element. So, yeah, that is a concern for me.
Yeah. And for those that haven't seen the team news, it's Pears in goal, Rankin Costello, Lenihan, Williams, Douglas, Corey Evans in for Bradley Johnson, Tom Tribal, Lewis Holtby, Ben Brereton, Adam Armstrong, and Harvey Elliott. Howard, do you share any of the concerns about Corey Evans in the starting lineup?
Yes, I do. I don't know about you, but there's a comment that's just been put in. I 100% agree with it, that I would much rather see John Buckley in that team than Corey Evans. I would probably also rather see Jacob Davenport given a chance, to be honest, than Corey Evans. For me, Corey Evans has been here, 7-8 years. He's been a good performer, but nothing more. I kind of think if we want to make that next step, I just think we have to move away from someone like Evans. Not that he isn't a good player of such, but he's never been for me, Corey Evans, basically. And I believe that we're at that point now where I believe that John Buckley and maybe Jacob Davenport are good enough, and I believe that they would deserve a chance in this team over Evans. But I trust Mowbray. If he thinks that's what's best, that's what's best. We'll have to settle with it, I suppose. But I do worry a little bit, especially what we saw against Watford with Evans in that role. He looked a little bit lost, really.
And it looks like the consensus, Liam Scott's put a comment in, Jacob from Lancs Live is suggesting that there's a knock there and not in the squad. So he might have taken one in training or be feeling his legs from some of the last games. Just picking up on another comment here from Henry Bolton 22. Has everyone just forgot about Dolan? Joe, I'm just going to come to you about the front three. You know, Ben Brereton was unplayable on Saturday, rightly man of the match and 3 assists. Adam Armstrong's the top goal scorer, and Harvey Elliott has come in and looked 10 years above 17 years old. I don't think people have forgotten about Dolan, have they? It's just right now that front three is picking itself.
Yeah, I think 2 things to pick up on the Dolan note. Obviously, we all saw the sad news this week about, I think, his close friend and really sad situation. And I think even if Dolan had grabbed himself a hat-trick at the weekend, I might have considered resting him tonight anyway. Tough one. We all send our love, obviously, and difficult situation. No, nobody's forgotten about him. Listen, he's a live wire. He's a slightly more raw talent, I think, than Harvey Elliott, but still, you know, a good player. I agree with Welsh Blackburn's comment here. Absolutely bang on. I think Dolan's best performances, even right from the first kick of the ball against Fleetwood in pre-season, have been as an impact sub. I think late on, when Reading legs are tired, I think he'd be a great player to bring on if he can get on. I think Elliott and Brereton and Armstrong has a nice balance to it. They can all play with the ball at their feet, but they've all got a little bit of them product, and you can't change winning formulas. If we'd have beaten Cardiff and Forest, would we have even signed Harvey Elliott? You know, etc., etc., etc. So we don't know whether he would have come. And yes, Dolan did well, and he can still be an impact sub. But Harvey Elliott has stood on his own 2 feet. He's got to play. You can't not play him. He's on loan from Liverpool, and I'm sure there's clauses in there anyway. He needs to play because I think he could easily get 10, 15 goals this season if he carries on like that.
Yeah. Just looking at some of the other comments as well. Dizzy Thumbs, can't JRC play in midfield? And then Lachlan Kearney wouldn't have minded to see JRC in midfield and Nyambi right back. We did touch on this on Saturday in the pre-match show. Alex, is it too much of a risk in a game like Reading to throw JRC into a midfield role? Has it got to be a game that's maybe of lesser importance or, you know, less sterner opposition?
I don't think there's really a need to risk JRC in the midfield in a game like this against top of the league at home. I think, as Howard said before, I think we do have quite a lot of depth in central midfield. Maybe not the players we don't want to play in there, but I think what you can't deny is that there's certainly a lot of numbers there in terms of, you know, Buckley, Davenport. You know, that's just off the top of my head. We have Travis, who's injured at the minute, unfortunately. But we have a lot of depth in that position, and I don't really see why you would play JRC there, and I don't know how you could justify it to all of the other players that are waiting in line to get minutes, really. I think JRC so far this season has proven to be a capable option at right back when he's been called upon, and so I think looking forward, I think it's going to be a straight fight between him and Ryan Nyambi for that position, and I think that's going to become a topic of debate as we go through this season, really, about Ranky Costello or Nyambi, because I think that's hotting up already, and particularly with the contract situation around Nyambi as well, which hasn't really been talked about quite as much as I would think. I think that will rise in prominence as we go along, but no. Not an option in midfield for me, and definitely not in a game of this significance.
Sure. And just picking up on some comments in response to what we've discussed, stand and stare, give Corey a chance. He could be the difference if the proper Corey turns up. And there was another Corey Evans comment, which I've lost now. Howard, are you willing to be swayed on Corey Evans in the starting lineup?
I mean, I'd have to be swayed by him himself if he puts in a good performance today, and I'd love nothing more than me to be proven wrong. But I don't know. There's just things about Evans that have always bugged me. I would much rather a John Buckley have played today. I think it would have been a little bit of a better balance in midfield as well. But look, Corey Evans has been a good servant, if you will, to this club. I respect him. He's been through a lot of bad times with this club, but he's never left. I'm sure he might have had offers. I'm not really too sure, but look, only him can sway my opinion, really. But we'll have to see. The thing that annoys me as well is that I think Corey Evans' injury record over that time has just been awful, and I just feel we'd need to move away from that, because I just don't think we can rely on Corey Evans as a midfielder in this division anymore. I don't think he'd get in many teams in this league, and I think we're I don't know why we particularly play him or choose him over someone like Buckley, who has been very 50-50 when he's played, granted, but I think he offers more in a midfield like that, especially in a game like this. But yeah, I'll have to see today. I think maybe if Evans plays a little bit deep and Tribal plays forward, I could maybe see Moby trying that, a little bit like the formation it shows on the screen. But I think that would suit Evans more, but I don't know whether that would suit Tribal anymore, personally. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Warren Selby, Corey Evans, good player, but not in this formation. So certainly some agreement with you there, Howard. Just before we move on to focus on a couple of players in particular, Alex, I'll just come on to your final thoughts. A comment here from Welsh Blackburn. What's your thoughts on Douglas starting again? Personally, I think it's the right decision. Are you in agreement as well?
Complete agreement. Before the game on Saturday, I think we kind of went through this topic a bit, didn't we? Douglas versus Bell. I don't think Douglas did anything on Saturday to dissuade me that he wouldn't be the number one left back going forward. I just think the glimpses we've seen of him so far, the quality of delivery into the box, is just something we've not really seen for definitely the past few years from that position. And I think as a team as compact as Reading are, I think set pieces might be crucial tonight. And it may just need one magic delivery into the box to win the game 1-0. And in my opinion, that's something that Douglas offers that Bell doesn't. And it's something that the team hasn't really had, certainly since Mulgrew left, but even with Downing going as well, there's certainly a gap in there. And I think Douglas provides that added threat from deliveries that I think is going to be needed tonight.
Sure. Before we move on to focus then on some players, just a couple of snippets here. So we've got a Reading fan here with us, Ding Kian. Nice that you've joined us, Ding Kian. Best team that they could have put out bar Ajaria. So Ajaria must be out for Reading. So that's good news for Rovers. And another little snippet that I've picked up on is that Amari Bell's not made the bench, actually, when you look at that bench. Sorry, I've lost the comment who put that. Someone has commented that Bell's in. So no Amari Bell tonight off the bench either. So yeah, slightly weaker in defence. There we go. Liam Scott. Sorry, Liam, it was your comment. So we're going to move on to focus on two players then. The first, Joe, I'm going to come to you first. Derek Williams. This season, the stats speak for themselves, don't they?
Yeah, basically. And I think it's a continuation of the conversation about Joe Rankin Costello. It's difficult to say whether these players have played in the easier of the games, and that's why the stats suggest that they've done better, or whether it's a case of it's because they played well that we did better. So yeah, I mean, we've lost 2, conceded 2. We've won 3, drawn 1, lost 1, 4 clean sheets out of 5. He's had a great year, and as plenty of people have noted, he was a couple of £100,000 away from leaving the club in a move to Swansea a matter of weeks ago. So I'm glad we've managed to keep hold of him because I think we needed the competition. I can see that Ayala's not made the bench. I don't know whether that's just a continuation of the injury that he had, but I think we'd have been concerned if we'd have been down to Wharton and Lenihan tonight and with Piers in there as well. I think we'd have started to really panic then. So I'm glad he stuck around. And in general, I just think he's a calm player. A left-footed left centre-back's always great for me and plays nice, simple passes, doesn't try and force things, relatively tall. Just a generally a decent player at this level, to be honest. Sure, he could probably be improved upon maybe next summer, and you look for somebody that's perhaps a little bit more ball playing, a Tosin Adarabioyo type who can really start attacks from deeper areas. But yeah, I like Derek, and he always pops up with one random goal a season, doesn't he? I think back to Millwall at home, where he just slides one in from 30 yards out, and even back in League One, MK Dons, and dabbed afterwards, and it was really embarrassing. But we all remember those kinds of goals. He just pops up with things, doesn't he? He's an interesting footballer. Obviously, used to play at left back for us, moved back over. So good for him. Good for us that he's playing so well. And as Jacob from Lanks Live commented to many a like and retweet it, I think now it's actually a case of Williams and another rather than Lenihan and another now.
And certainly lots of love for Derek Williams in the comments. Hunter's Army, back to get his crown tonight. Oh, yes, Del Boy. Bloody love this man. So underrated. Warren Selby, Del at the moment is the first person I put in the back four. And then Ishmael Luna, Williams, the game against Hull away, he was class. Obviously, that game last season. So, Howard, looking at these stats that are in front of us now and just in general how Williams has played this season, how have you rated Williams' performances so far?
I mean, the stats tell the story, don't they? He's been brilliant. But again, I like Derek Williams as a player. I always have. Other than a few instances at left back, I never thought he was a left back. He just didn't have the attributes in this team for us to be successful there. But the worry for me with Derek Williams is his injury record, and I think you can kind of guarantee in this season that Derek Williams will have injuries, which is the big worry for me, because I like the Lenihan-Williams partnership at centre half is brilliant. They kind of bounce off each other, they understand each other, which was something that Ayala and Lenihan didn't do in the Watford game, especially with the second goal. But I think I said it after the Watford game as well. I believe that for now this is definitely the best partnership. Again, because of what I said previously, but we can't underestimate how good Daniel Ayala is at this level, and I do believe that once he's kind of got that match sharpness, once he's put the injuries to the back of him, if you understand what I'm trying to say, I think I would definitely prefer him over Derek Williams, which is nothing against Derek Williams, because I don't know, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think it would be unfair. I understand that, but I think football's a bit of a brutal thing at times, in that you kind of have to do what you believe is best. At the moment, I believe Derek Williams is best, but long term, I believe that Daniel Ayala will be a much better option at centre half than Derek Williams for me.
And certainly with what you've said there, Howard, there seems to be some agreement within the comments. So Daniel Woods picking up on the comment from Jacob about, it's Williams plus one other at the moment. Not sure about that. You'd worry if Lenihan wasn't there, not so much with Derek. And then leap year man, on the flip side, Williams being a left-footed centre half gives us good balance as well as his defensive ability. And then Warren Selby, only thing Del does wrong for me is his stray passing when playing from the back. Alex, I'll give you the final say on Derek Williams. Is he the first name on the team sheet in defence at the moment for you? And also, do you see him as a long-term partner for Lenihan once Ayala is back up to that match fitness, as Howard described?
100%. He's been our best defender so far this season. I think if you had to shoehorn Ayala into the team due to his experience, then if you had to lose either Williams or Lenihan, then, and I can't believe I'm saying this on a live stream, but I would lose Lenihan at the minute. I think that is just that would just be the merit of his performances so far. I think one thing we haven't mentioned as well, which I think Mowbray might have alluded to before this game, that going to back three is an option for us this season, and we may see that at some stage. Now, where Williams plays in that, I presume he will play the left-sided centre back. But I think that's certainly something that's quite interesting to maybe think about going forward. Mowbray can surprise us sometimes with some of the formations and team selections that he comes out with, but I think it was quite interesting that he hinted that might be an option for us this season and a way of getting all three of them into the team. I think I'd be interested to hear what your guys' opinion on that is, and whether we could kind of pull out a similar level of dominance in certain games with a back three or not. But I just think that was something interesting to bring up.
Sure. I mean, just for my 2 pence worth on Williams in this starting 11, I've said before on other shows and other streams that we've done, I think the sides that go up have a settled back four, and Daniel Ayala is someone who I don't think we're going to get 46 games out of. He's already missed a couple, and we need to have that settled centre-back pairing. And if it can be Lenihan and Williams for the majority of the season, then that is a basis and a platform to build on, and the stats don't lie. In terms of the formation change, that's just that $1 million question, isn't it? You know, how do you solve a problem like Bradley Dack? And I hope that a formation change isn't as a result of trying to squeeze Dack into this side. However, we've got to try and squeeze him in, haven't we? Joe, where are you on the formation change and potentially Williams slotting in with Ayala and Lenihan?
I mean, let's not forget that whilst on paper we line up in a 4-3-3, it's not the formation we play. We're already playing a 5 at the back system, in theory. Tom Tribal or whoever it will be him tonight, but it's usually Bradley Johnson, sits ridiculously deep, often deeper than Lenihan and Williams. We are effectively playing in a back 5 or a back 3, or however you want to word it. I often comment and we talk about how the formation is really a 2-5-3 with Lenihan and Williams quite deep, a midfield 5 with Douglas and Rankin Costello, the wide ones, and your 3 in the centre, and then 3 forwards that are quite central and compact together. So do we shift to a 5 at the back? I don't think that really matters. Really what you're doing there is you're replacing that anchor, that single pivot midfielder, with a defender. If you were going to play one of the 3 in that position, it would have to be Lenihan. He's got a history as a youth player as playing as a midfielder, a little bit more aggression, getting out there to the ball. So if one of them plays as that more aggressive kind of role in the centre of 2, then it would be him. But I don't think it's necessary. For me, Ayala is great cover. Doesn't have to play every game, but I don't think squeezing 3 of them in is helpful. It gives us less midfield options for when Dack and Travis are back, because if you play 5 at the back, all of a sudden you've got literally 5 attacking spaces to work with, and you've got Brereton, Armstrong, Elliott, Dolan, Rothwell, Dack, Travis, Holtby, Buckley. You want to fit them all in, and you've got 5. So I think, if anything, it's got to stay as a 4 at the back system, or potentially even a more, 3 at the back system. Maybe it's difficult to look at, but look for yourself throughout the game. Anybody who's watching, you'll notice we're not playing a 4-3-3. That's the way it's presented before a game. We're not really playing that formation.
Sure. So another player we're going to focus on now is another player that has his fair share of critics and does divide opinion, and that's Sam Gallagher. Howard, he came on Saturday, bagged himself a goal, seemingly back to fitness now, but we have said that the front 3 are picking themselves at the moment. How impressed were you with Gallagher on Saturday, and what do you think he's going to bring us this season?
I'd say, especially from the game beforehand, when he came on with Nottingham Forest, he kind of put himself around a bit more than he usually does. He looks like he's my issue always with Sam Gallagher, as I always used to say, he was the smallest 6'4" player I've ever seen, because he never used his height to his advantage. And I kind of saw glimpses of him using that. He took his goal very well against Coventry as well, but I think he's definitely an option off the bench this season. I think he'd be a good option to bring on in games that we're winning, a bit like Coventry, not in games that we're chasing, because I feel like with Sam Gallagher up front, it kind of almost forces us to play a little bit different to what we usually do. We've kind of the standard League One diagonal balls from the two defenders to Gallagher to knock on. It was Graham then, obviously. But I mean, you can't argue that he's been very impressive when he's come on as sub as well, because we had the games before the end of last season, the Reading, was it Luton? I can remember the game against Stoke in December when he scored the winner. He came on as sub in them and he made big impacts in them games. Granted, we lost to Luton, but he still scores quite a nice goal. So maybe that's kind of the future that we have for him. Maybe kind of like that. I mean, nothing like Harry Chapman, but kind of like that Chapman role where we just kind of know that he's always going to sit on the bench and maybe come on and change the game if we need him to.
And Alex, Mowbray obviously likes a wide striker. Has Ben Brereton set the grade with how he's played in general this season and that performance that he made on Saturday? Is that ultimately what Gallagher is going to have to get to in terms of the levels to break into that front three?
I think for sure that Brereton set the benchmark for himself, but all of the other players that want to play in that position going forward. I think the problem with Gallagher is I don't think that's his game. I don't think that's his game at all. And I think the fact that we're on here now talking about a £5 million signing for this club being on the bench week in, week out, that is pretty disappointing to me. And obviously, I think we all know that there's definitely some strong opinions around where money should have been spent and how it was spent and all that kind of thing. But I think the fact that we're sitting here now talking about possibly the highest earner at the club, potentially, I think he's up there, and someone who costs £5 million, not really fitting into the position that the manager wants him to play, in my opinion. I think even on Saturday when he came on, he put Elliott down the middle instead. I don't know what Gallagher has to do to be given a chance to play down the middle. I don't really see the way we play winning the headers against the fullbacks to be that important. I don't think it's exactly a game-winning tactic. I don't think he's a particularly good crosser of the ball. I think Gallagher's best chance of getting goals is getting inside the box like he did for the fourth goal at Coventry, is having players cross the ball into him, put the ball into him inside the box and give him an instinctive finish. That's when Gallagher's at his best. And so I think it's quite bizarre to me that we continue with this right wing experiment, but I don't think it shows any signs of ending, to be honest.
Sure, and I think there's lots of comments in agreement to what you've just said there, Alex. Ishmael Luna, he's only effective as a striker. He's wasted on the wing with Elliott and Brereton to provide for him. Daniel Woods, annoys me when Gallagher comes on at right forward, needs to be a centre forward. Spiritual Gains, 100% centre forward. And then Warren Selby, Sam Gallagher, confidence player like Big Ben, needs games, he'll come good. Joe, we've spoken about potential formation changes, how we're set up now. Is Gallagher's only way of being effective in our side at this moment as a central striker?
I think he'd argue no. He came on as a right forward and everybody hates it, but he scored a goal, didn't he? And he certainly wasn't at right forward when that went in the net. So, you know, formations and positions, especially up that top end of the pitch, it's all abstract. I mean, you get the average positions up, which we did on the post-match thread from the Coventry game, and Elliott was the most central player on the pitch. Armstrong was very heavily left-hand-sided and deeper, you know, and Brereton was right on that touchline. And almost as the ball shifts left, the whole front three shifts left as well. And what you've got is you've got your winger, your support man who's the central, and then your right-sided striker is actually the one in the middle in the box. And then as we shift right, then Brereton's the one in the box. So I get it, and I get frustrated with Sam Gallagher because I think he's capable. But we sat here and discussed him before the last game and said, well, is he good enough and should we have signed him and where does he go and what do we do? And he'll say, well, will you shut up about me because I came on and I scored a goal, so give me a bloody break. That's what he'll be thinking. And I think it was Rich Sharp that pulled up his record and said, his actual goals per minutes is one of the highest in the division now with all his goals off the bench. So, yeah, I feel bad for him at this stage because he's getting more stick than I think even Ben Brereton got at one stage. And really, I don't agree with the rhetoric that he's being played out of position because it's all abstract, that formations and things like that. They all move around. So when he comes on, he scores, and I like him in that role. I like Dolan in that role. I used to like Rothwell in that role, but I think Rothwell provides a little bit more starting now. So listen, I hope he comes on today and scores a brace and then we say, right, we are banning talk of Sam Gallagher for another few weeks.
I mean, the one thing I'll say about Sam Gallagher, that League One season and throughout his second spell with us, he is a powerful runner. He can move with that ball, he can dribble, and he is a really good outlet down those wings. I think for me, I'm with you, Joe. If we've got Adam Armstrong banging in goals and hopefully Bradley Dack banging in goals when he comes back, Gallagher's and Brereton's better contributions for the team might be doing those things that they've been doing at the moment. Who's complaining about Ben Brereton getting 3 assists on Saturday, for example? If he's doing that every game, then he can have 1 goal and 10 assists for all I care. So I think, yeah, I'm with you, Joe. I think Gallagher just deserves a little bit of a break at the moment, particularly with the options that we do now have in that forward 3 area. No one's complaining about who's starting tonight, and Gallagher proves to be a very effective option. We're going to move on then. Joe, I'm going to ask you to talk about this next slide if we can. A really interesting one that you've put together, which is comparing our current forward options with the rest of the championship. Do you want to just talk us through what that's showing us, and then I'll get some comments from everyone?
Yeah, so just to caveat, obviously, Sam Gallagher's not included here just because he hasn't played enough minutes really to include him in the data set. So basically, we've got Adam Armstrong in white, Brereton in blue, Dolan in red, and Elliott in yellow. And your pink dots on the screen there are your championship average. So basically, what you're seeing here in terms of trends, and bear in mind that Elliott's played 2 games for us, is that in pretty much every area we've got average and above average forwards, which is obviously great, playing a front 3. Armstrong, of course, in terms of his expected goals, his shots per game, and even surprisingly his aerial ability for his height, he's well above average for what you would need in the championship to be, a mid-table team. But I think the interesting note here is Ben Brereton in the blue, above average in pretty much every capacity, perhaps apart from goals per game. But yeah, so you can kind of get a gist for things. I think Elliott's influence on this graph 2 games in is really impressive. I know some people are saying in the comments this is quite difficult to understand, all the colours overlapping and things like that. It's one of them that you kind of have to zoom in on and have a proper look at. But yeah, so definitely good to have a front 3 that's firing so well. Our accurate passes per game is really high because obviously we play a lot of ball. We have a lot of possession. You think back to Wickham, 71%. Even games against like Cardiff and Forest, 59% possession. So yeah, an interesting little graph, and we'll probably keep updating this as we go on. It's always nice to compare the types of strikers you've got at the club and then with the rest of the league.
Sure. So let's just break this down a little bit, and certainly for the benefit of the people listening. Howard, I'll come to you first. Are you surprised that against these measures of expected goals, assists, successful dribbles, shots, accurate passes per game, and aerial duels won, are you surprised that Ben Brereton is above average in all of those categories?
If you'd have told me that this would have been the case last season, I probably would have been. But from what I've seen, I'm not. I think the thing that impresses me the most is the aerial duels one. He's miles ahead of the championship average and the other 3 forwards in that regard. And that was always something that I felt Brereton struggled with, is the fact that I never felt he used, similar to Gallagher, like I said, he didn't use his height to his advantage, because I kind of forgot that he was 6'2", because you look at him and to me, he just doesn't play like someone that's 6'2", if you know what I mean. So I think that could be something that we can push back to maybe the Danny Graham influence, if you will, because I remember the game against Wickham, he used his body in that game so well. It was Danny Graham-esque, and you can that graph is showing that improvement that he's made, and you can only give him credit for it, really. Like, you look at the other things as well, so like the assists and the accurate passes as well. It on the whole, it just is very impressive how he's done this season, and hopefully it can continue. I have faith that it will, because I mean, there's nothing to me that says that it can't. Because to me, I think he's been probably a top 3 performer so far this season throughout the stretch of the games, and that graph certainly shows it, and it's very impressive for him.
Yeah. And Alex, just another thing that's standing out for me here, Tyrese Dolan and Harvey Elliott, accurate passes per game, quite high above the championship average. And then a couple of the other measures there, Dolan is above on successful dribbles and things. How impressed have you been with Elliott and Dolan and the influence they seem to be having on this Rovers side in comparison to the rest of the championship?
I think I've probably run out of praise for Elliott, to be honest. After 180 minutes, I don't think I can maybe eulogise about him any more than I already have. One thing I will say, looking at that graph, and I think it will be interesting for Joe to maybe have a look at Brereton from this season compared to last season to see where he's made any improvements. But just looking at Elliott's graph there, it really doesn't surprise me just how much above average his accurate passes per game are. I think just looking back at the Watford game and looking at Coventry as well, just the range of passing that he has, the vision that he has, passing in behind the back lines of the opposition, that's not really something that we've seen, I think, over the past few years since we've been in the Championship. And I'm hoping going forward that can be the key to unlocking these tight defences that we're facing at home up to now. So I think it will be interesting to see how he does tonight and see if those accurate passes behind the defence will make any difference to our ability to create chances.
Sure. And Joe, we'll move on to focus onto the game now. So with the final 10 minutes, Rovers fans, please do hit us with your comments. Anything else that you want us to discuss or anything else you've got comments on, we'll keep the stream open for another 10 minutes or so. So Joe, just a bit of a tactical focus on the game itself then. When we spoke on the other side to the Reading fan last night, they spoke about the double pivot that they do have. How are we ultimately going to break that down and score against a side that's got that deep block?
Well, 2 things. One, the main thing tonight is patience. I think we showed against Cardiff and Forest that we can't handle it, can we? Especially at home. We really don't like it when teams sit like that. We don't know how to break it down. Armstrong can't run in behind because the defenders couldn't be any deeper. There isn't any space to run into. So, 1, patience, that's the key one. And then 2, from a more tactical point of view, they're going to force us into wide areas. So, I think back to the first goal against Derby. Rothwell gets that ball in a central midfield area and runs 30 yards with it straight down the middle through their bank of midfield. That's not happening tonight. I mean, I might be wrong, but it won't happen. They are going to force us wide. Those central areas will be heavily packed. Not only is there the double pivot, but also slightly is in behind the striker who will come back and help, and especially early on in the game, or if they happen to go a goal up. So we'll be forced into wide areas. Their fullbacks sit pretty tight in with the central defenders to help defend the box, and not to reference them too heavily, but their defending is so similar to Sean Dyche's Burnley. It's about defending deep and allowing teams to put the ball in the box because you know that Morrison's going to head that ball away and you don't have to stress over it because you know full well that they can defend a box. You think back to us having a Hanley or a Duffy or a Scott Dan. That's the kind of defence we're talking about. They're not like us where last year Tosin Adarabioyo was spending most of the game past the halfway line. That's not the kind of space we're going to get. So we're going to be forced wide, and then from there it's about delivery. So I'm glad Douglas is playing. I'm glad JRC started. It's what I wanted because delivery into the box is going to be key tonight because when you've got a Morrison heading the ball away like that and a goalkeeper that's in form, it's got to be pinpoint. If a goal comes, I think it'll be crosses into the box, set pieces, corners, free kicks, penalties. If we get the early goal, we could, get a second that's a little bit more total football-y a more Blackburn Tony Mowbray goal if they open up a bit, but it's going to be a tough one.
Indeed. And Howard, before the game and before the team news, you had Ryan Nyambe at right back for the more defensive reasons. Given what Joe's just said there about the need for good deliveries into the box, can you see why Mowbray's gone for JRC tonight?
Yeah.
And Barry Doug.
I mean, the pass that Costello did to Brereton. Oh, go on. Or did you? Oh no.
No,
yeah, we saw the pass.
It was my connection. You carry on.
Brereton. Then it, when Brereton won the penalty. God, what's going on here?
Keep going. It was my connection.
All right.
Carry on.
Sorry, you were just talking, but I think there's a bit of a delay in there. So
it was.
Yeah,
carry on.
Yeah, my criticism with Nyambe, which has been probably for a couple of years now, he gets into the positions to cross the ball, and considering how good he is at crossing the ball, I've never felt he does it often enough, which is something that with Rankin Costello being a natural midfielder, you can kind of expect a much better delivery into the box. He's obviously very gifted when it comes to that compared to a Nyambe. So yeah, based off what Joe said, I can definitely see why he's gone for Rankin Costello. I think Douglas was always a given. I think Douglas was always going to play no matter who he played, but obviously, from his time at Wolves and partly from his time at Leeds, the quality that he can possess off a dead ball, off taking the ball off the left-hand side and bending it in. If that's how we think we're going to break down Reading, we've certainly got the weapons, if you will, to help us do that.
Sure. And Alex, just picking up on a comment here from Stand and Stare. Kaminsky was integral to the high press. His pairs up to the same out-of-box role. Is it going to be a game where we do that high press, or is it going to be, as Joe suggests, it's going to have to be patient? We're going to have to work the ball a little bit. We might allow them to have it at the back a little bit rather than pressing like we did on Saturday. How do you see it going? And with Stand and Stare's question there, any concerns about Ainsley Pears standing 40 yards off his line like Kaminsky's been doing recently?
I'll take the first point first around high press and that kind of thing. I was listening to your live stream last night, Ryan, and I think what the Reading fan mentioned was that they were unsure about how they would deal with the high press, how they'd be able to cope with that. I think managers have principles of play. You can change formations, you can change personnel, but there's principles of play that managers stick to regardless of, formations, personnel and all that kind of thing. And I think from what I've seen so far this season, the way we're setting out our stall is that at every opportunity we're trying to enforce that high press on the opposition. It looks like it's more of a principle of play rather than dependent upon, what the individual circumstances surrounding the game. So let's see if Reading try and pass out from the back. If they do try and pass out from the back, then there'll certainly be the onus on us then to press them high up the pitch and see if we can force them into making a mistake. But looking at the results so far this season, it looks like they haven't been making many mistakes. So that rounds up the first point. On Ainsley Pears, ultimately, I have to confess, I haven't seen him play. I haven't seen him play before. I'm unsure about how Middlesbrough played last season when he's had a lot of his championship experience. They don't strike me as a side that were playing a similar style of play to what we are now. Looking at the results last season, they didn't do too well. So I think it will be interesting to see how he does tonight. I'm not particularly nervous about him. It's not like he's a complete rookie. But obviously that is an area of doubt. And I think Kaminsky was brought in specifically to be that kind of sweeper keeper for his distribution out to the wide areas. And I think it'll be interesting to see how a change in the goalkeeper kind of affects our style of play around that area of the pitch. But I think a club in our position cannot complain about having Pears as a backup option. I think Pears is a more than capable backup option at a good age that will improve over time, that has enough championship experience. We can't expect to be calling upon a Premier League class goalkeeper as backup with the position we're in as a club. So I think we'll just see how he does tonight. And if he does well, will come on here after the game and pat him on the back. But it's not something I'm ultra concerned about. He may shoot himself in the foot and give me egg on my face after the game if he makes a mistake. But sitting here right now, I don't have any concerns.
Sure. So we've reached 7:30. Rovers fans, please hit us with your pre-match predictions just as I go round the panel now. What's your score prediction? Hit it in the comments box for us. I'll just go around everyone very quickly now. Joe, what's your prediction?
1-1.
1-1. Howard?
2-2.
2-2. Alex?
I can't believe I'm the most positive on this show. 2-1.
Well, I'm with you with 2-1 as well. I don't think we've got many other score predictions coming through at the moment. So just whilst they are coming through, Dan, if you just want to bring them up on the screen as we go. We've got 4-1 Rovers, 3-2 Rovers, 3-3, 2-1 Rovers, 1-1. So certainly some of the comments here may be reflecting the fact that it's going to be a tough game. So we will end the live stream here now. Just a reminder to everyone, we will be back on at 10 p.m. for the post-match reaction and follow-up like we did last week against Watford in the Coventry game. Please join us at 10 p.m. If you are not following the Rovers Chat Twitter account, please help us get to 5,000 followers, Rovers_chat on Twitter. Of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Rovers Chat. And if you haven't got your 6 Yard Out merch, there we go. That's a home mug there, which I did see a comment from Andy Watson earlier. He said it was straight vodka that I had in there. It wasn't. It was a cup of tea. I wish it was straight vodka. I wouldn't be talking the way I am now if it's straight vodka. But
your prediction.
Exactly. So we will see you all later on, Rovers fans. Please join us later. Please check out 6yardsout.com and we will see you soon. Thank you.
The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.